I hope that you are all having a great week, and welcome to the new time. So 3:30 in the afternoon for Wednesdays. Hope this is great for y'all. Um, and we're trying out some new software, so hopefully the chat comments will come through. But great to see four of you on. Um, and let's get right to the questions. So let's see here. Let's see. So May is still having some issues with spirit stools. So I'm going to pop up this spreadsheet you sent over, May, so we can take a look at this. Let's see. Share screen. Specific window. Elimination diet. There we go. So let's pop this up. So I'm going to look in the last month or so here, and there's a couple of trends I noticed. I think your problem may be pumpkin because it looks like everything is good uh, through the bison until you hit pumpkin, and then the next day it's loose. And I'm assuming that he is waking up with loose stools, so the first bowel movements of the day. Um, oh, good, and things are better since you sent it. So, Susie, this is our new time and date because this is kind of what the the groups said was best for them. So 3:30 in the afternoon. So this will be the new time going forward. So back to this spreadsheet here. So if we're looking here, pumpkin the next day soft, beans well formed, chia well formed, and then the next day after pumpkin again well form but loose. Um, yeah. So what I'm looking at is kind of the day after. So bison, pumpkin. The day he ate it, the stools were well formed, but the day after, they're formed but mushy. So it's looking like that fiber may be a problem. Um, and then it looks like, yeah, that's just kind of weird because you salmon and pumpkin, um, you're getting well formed stools the day after. So this is a little bit unclear. So what I would suggest that you do is to try taking the pumpkin out of the mix and see what happens and see if things get better or don't get better. Because that's kind of the one pattern I can see. So I would do that first and then see if the stools stay well formed, throughout the week, regardless of what protein you're using, whether that's salmon or whether that is bison. Excuse me, because I'm seeing what you're saying. He's got, yeah, it's like, so each time he gets the pumpkin, the next day you've got down that the stools are soft. And then when he gets a different fiber, then things are good. So from so you go from this form but loose on bison and pumpkin to the next day salmon and beans. The following day it's well formed. So I pull the pumpkin out of the mix and see if that fixes things or doesn't fix things. So yes, alternate your pumpkin and chia and see how that goes. And if that's working well, great. The other one you could consider, but I think did not work, was uh, flaxseed. I think that was a problem. So that's another one you could look at. You could also look at psyllium husks, and you can buy those by themselves now. You don't have to buy Metamucil anymore. So check that out and see if that makes sense. So first experiment is pull the pumpkin, alternate beans and chia to make sure things are working well, and if that's working, great. Give it 3 or 4 days for everything to smooth out. If everything is beautiful, then you could try some alternative fiber sources like the psyllium or the flaxseed. And Susie, yes, this will be our permanent time and date going forward. And really, I just had last week off, so we'll be going straight through into January. I may take another week off in January and February. And Pam, yes, you could try some turnips too, because that often those those actually work reasonably well for many of them. So yeah, try the turnip out there. And then yeah, and then try flaxseed. So, one thing at a time. It's you kind of have to feel your way through this, and then see if you see a difference. Once you've pulled the pumpkin out, see if you see a difference between the salmon and the bison days. But hopefully everything will be good. Um, so let's see. Let me stop sharing and let me pop back up over to our questions. Don't have a lot this week, which is all good. And then Shri sent this article over from Rodney Habib, and I think there's a couple of things that are really interesting here. One is that Australian dogs seem to be a lot longer lived than American dogs, and that is the truth. And when the thing that's fascinating is that when Hills went over to Australia to introduce all their prescription diets, they had to go back 5 years later to teach veterinarians how to treat all these chronic diseases they'd never seen. And so, and that's kind of the joke in the natural community, but sadly it is true. So we really screwed things up. But I think this part is what's very interesting, is that the owner said that chia dined mainly on boiled leftovers such as potato peels, cabbage ends, and eggshells, with a soup bone tossed in for flavoring. And this is the other thing that's fascinating to me. So if you have read Juliette Barclay-Levy's book about natural rearing for dogs, she a lot of the raw diet people point back to her, but in fact this is a lot of what she was suggesting was soups and leftover milks and things of that nature. She did not, and she did say raw bones, raw meaty bones, but what she didn't say is a lot of meat. And so this is maybe part of our issue, is that we go to such extremes with pet food and with our own food that it's really, um, really, really difficult. So you're right. I mean, they tend to focus on fresh foods there, although the diet, is pretty English. So again, potatoes and cabbage, and unfortunately, a lot of processed food for peoples. Um, so this is very interesting. So thanks, Sri, for putting this up, because it definitely is it's a big problem in food, and I think that in the United States we suffer from orthorexia, if you will, and so that's a term that somebody came up with, but literally people are making themselves sick by eating only vegan, only vegetarian, only this, only that, because they think it's the way to save the world, or they think it's the right thing to do, and they're doing it really extra hard. Um, so it's very interesting to me, and I think that there's a lot of things that will need to change in the world coming forward to help protect our environment. Um, so yeah, so so Susie, the book is Juliette Barclay-Levy's Natural Dog Rearing. I think that's correct. Um, and you're saying that your German Shepherds, in when you lived in Australia, lived to be, I mean, astonishing ages. They were 112 and 189 pounds, and they lived to be 21 and a half and 18 and a half. And I'm interested to hear how you fed your guys there, because I think, um, let me see if I can find this book for you. But I'm interested to hear how you fed them there, because I'm suspicious that yeah, natural rearing diet for dogs. Um, So let me share this page with you. Yeah, mainly ate rabbit and kangaroo and scraps of our food and veggies. So let me share this page with you. And I think if people understood what she was actually recommending, they would be a little bit horrified. Um, but this is the diet she recommended. Um, so whole grains. So wheat, rye, barley, or oats softened with raw milk, buttermilk, or vegetable juice. Raw egg one day, small amount of corn or safflower oil or tahini the next. So there's not a lot of meat here, is there? Um, and then in so the midday meal, you're going to have a little bit. So there's a lot of grain here, right? And then night meal, you're going to have raw chunked meat and bones with a small amount of fat. But this is very high carbohydrate. We're at 65 to 70%. She doesn't specify the meat, but essentially in the book, what she said is uh, very, very small amounts. So just enough to kind of keep your dog's weight at a good place. But this is a very, very different approach, and I think that many of the people that are proponents of raw feeding would be horrified and say that this is not appropriate. So let me drop this in the comments too, so you'll have this. This is an interpretation, but at least it'll get you to the correct book. Let's see if I can actually do this or not. This is the one. I think I can't make comments from the software, but we'll add the link to that in the. Let's see if Hannah can put this up. So we'll add the link to this so that you'll have access to it. But this, she's considered the grandmother of natural nutrition for pets. And there was another book somewhere along the line that looked at different breeds of dogs and where they came from, and what their diets would have been as the breed itself sort of evolved with the humans. And so that was very, very interesting. And I'll see if I can find that PDF of the book and post it in the group itself. So that's what I've got for you. Any other questions I can answer for you? So, I mean, this is just astonishing. So we did, this is the thing that really is disturbing a bit to me in the United States, is that we are so obsessed, and actually most Western countries, about complete and balanced nutrition for pets based on specific micronutrients and amino acids, instead of looking at whole foods and things of that nature. So much like us, for many of us, there's very few specific nutrients, with the exception of um, vitamin D and calcium, that are at problems. So it's very interesting. However, having said all of this, I mean, Juliet Barclay Levy was working in the 50s, and um, so things changed. There wasn't so much orthorexia. And let's see, dosage of omega-3. And I'm sorry, Susie, I didn't get the software set up correctly for comments, the last one. So omega-3 fatty acids for skin itchies. The starting dosage now is considered, so now we're going to switch to the mega doses of vitamins, right? But this sort of goes along with what I was starting to say. As she was working in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot less chemical garbage in our environment, and I think a lot less physical stress. And so now we're looking at, okay, what sort of mega doses of things do we need to fix the problems we've created within the environment? So for omega-3 fatty acids, the starting dose is 50 milligrams per kilogram, or roughly 100 milligrams per pound of body weight, and it goes all the way up to 150 milligrams per kilogram or 300 mgs per pound of omega-3 fatty acids for arthritis. I think its skin dose is somewhere around 67 or 70 milligrams per kg. So again, double that, and you've got, let's say, 140 just to make the math easy per pound. So it'd start there. And then as far as itchies go, with quercetin, you can use quercetin by itself, and you would use somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 milligrams per 25 pounds as a starting dose. And for some of the larger pets, or for the really super itchy pets, you may go as high as uh, 400 to 600 milligrams every four times a day, rather, so roughly every 6 hours. The other option is to use omega or quercetin and stinging nettles, and using it at the proportion. So in the histopause, it's 200 milligrams of quercetin plus 200 milligrams of stinging nettles per capsule. And so that same base of 200 milligrams of quercetin per 25 pounds, and then titrating your way up depending on how severely the itchies are for your pet. That would be where you would start to roll from there. And let me double check my little cheat sheet to make sure I've got everything else answered. Yes, it looks like I do. I've got things covered. So yes, and absolutely use the quercetin you've got at home. Bromelain is in there to enhance absorption, and so just dose it appropriately, because your guys are at. Is the dog you're thinking of for this? Is this the rescue or not? Because I think your guys are at 50 pounds or better. And so you would start with that 500 milligram uh, capsule, or 400 milligram, depending on which one you've got. And then just try that one of them twice a day. If that's not quite enough to get the itchies under control, then you can start to titrate up to 3 or 4 times a day for 80 pounds. So start with a cap twice a day. And if that's not cutting it, then just kind of titrate your way up until you find the effective dose. The only downside of quercetin I've ever seen is that it can cause some stomach upset. So especially for Hio, that's been a bit of a problem. And so it's weird. We just have um, we just have to really dose it light. And so, Susie, I think you may have the Now product with quercetin and bromelain. And if you look at the back of the label, it'll say 2 capsules actually give you 800 milligrams, but double check me on that. But if you've got the Now quercetin with bromelain, they list the 800 milligrams, but it is per 2 capsules. So see how that looks. That's it. Yeah. So just double check it and make sure I've not lost my marbles, but you can start with a capsule twice a day. If you're finding that's working, but the itching is breaking through, then at 6-7 hours, then go to 3 times a day, so on and so forth. And I think that really is all I've got for you today. Again, we've got some great sales coming up. We've got free shipping all the way through December. We've got for any purchase over $100, we've got a free bottle of turmeric and curcumin. And then I think that our previous distributing company has actually found 100 bottles of holistic total body support. So hopefully that will help us out for a bit. So that's what I've got for you today. Hope that everyone has a wonderful week. Now we'll see you next week at the same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll go from there. Until then, give everybody a big hug and a kiss, and have a wonderful time.